Hey there, folks. Nerdy John here. It's been a while since I've done a proper nerdy review. I mean, I did one off Mountain Blade, I think a week or two ago, but that isn't my official style. That was just a quick video done, and I planned on doing a 1 year anniversary video, but some technical stuff happened with editing, and so yeah. Plus school now. That's a bummer. Can you see I'm trying to stall here? Because I'm sure you clicked on the video for the title alone. We're looking at EA's Battlefront 2. But before we start, because I'm trying to stall as much as possible, let's discuss the original Battlefront games. The original Battlefront, released in 2004, was a shooter designed for consoles at the time, the PS2 and the original Xbox. It was a massive success with its large open battles and decent shooting mechanics. However, the devs felt they could improve upon the game with a sequel. The original Battlefront 2 did a lot to improve upon the original game. You could now play as your favorite Star Wars heroes and villains. Of course, they weren't available automatically. You had to unlock them throughout the game, or throughout the match, I'm sorry. And I noticed I forgot to mention this in the previous segment, but how Battlefront worked was you captured what were called command points. This is where your troops would spawn, and basically, if you capture one, when you die, you can respawn to that command point. And it kept things interesting, capturing command points and defending them. It was a nice change of pace. Also, there were vehicles you could use around the map. This goes for the first game as well. And they also, this is getting on to what they added new. They added a story mode that was from the clone troopers' perspective, as the beginning of the Clone War. Sorry, I almost said Cold War. Don't know why. The beginning of the Clone War all the way up to the Battle of Hoth. So you get to see how the Empire formed from their perspective, and it's a really nice campaign. It's decent, and it was well received by fans. Everyone was hoping for a Battlefront 3, and we were teased about it for a couple years, but it never came to fruition. But then, in, I want to say, 2014, DICE, an EA-owned company, released a trailer for a new Star Wars game, which was later revealed to be Star Wars Battlefront. And it wasn't well received. There was no story mode to speak of, not even rehatching the story of the movies, and it was only multiplayer. But overall, people didn't really have that much of a problem with it. It's this game people have a problem with, and we're gonna get into that. Okay, so the game begins with your character, who is trying to think of the name. It's not coming to me at the moment. I'm sorry. She is apparently the leader of a super elite special forces unit inside the Empire, and she got captured by the rebels. They did not take her equipment away. She still has full armor, and she still has her helmet, which she can use to communicate. These rebels are dumb. And then you later learn that she was doing it on purpose, so that way they can get sensitive plans and delete them. Yeah. It's a mess, I tell ya. It's a mess. And later on, you go to Endor, and you see the Death Star explode. And their reaction can be summed up as meh. Like, they look shocked for a fraction of a second, and they're like, come on, we need to do the mission. Stuff like that. Like, I always imagined a sense of dread, or something along those lines, if from a stormtrooper's perspective of seeing the Death Star explode, But no, this game just, they were kind of meh about the entire thing, and that's just really disappointing. So, after the events of Endor, our merry crew are told about the Emperor's last plan, Operation Cinder, a plan that will strike fear into the galaxy and make sure the Empire reigns supreme. That's funny. We'll get into what the plan details in a moment. But anyway, so they go about the plan, and then they realize what the plan actually is. So the plan details that the Empire destroys its own worlds to maintain power. You heard me correctly. The plan is to destroy your own worlds to maintain power. Obviously, our main character is disturbed by this, considering that one of the targets is her home world. And so it may or may not have caused, them to rebel and, not be obedient to the Empire. And, get this, they meet Lando, and they join the rebellion. Of course, the rebellion is now the New Republic. Ay. So, let's see. So far, in trying to accomplish Operation Cinder, the Empire has destroyed its own resources, made people doubt it, and has caused a few renegades. Seems like a real success so far. Oh, and another thing I should note, a majority of these new characters don't get development, and this is tied to a book. A book I have, which is kind of a meh story, but even then the characters aren't really that developed. Okay, I'm looking at this from how the Empire would look at it, not looking at how you're destroying life because the Empire doesn't really care about that. When you're actively destroying your own resources and manpower, what sense does that make? You say you're instilling fear, but that fear will turn into anger, which will be directed towards the Empire, which will cause more worlds to rebel. And it's, oh my god. Here's an idea, admirals. What if Operation Cinder is just the Emperor's middle finger to you all? Because obviously he doesn't want the Empire to outlive him. I think he created this plan just to have the Empire burn. And yes, I know people are gonna argue, well, the Empire destroyed Alderaan. Sorry, I'm butchering the name. They destroyed Princess Leia's home planet in the first movie. Yes, that's true. But it could be argued that the majority of the leaders on that planet were on her side. So it basically was a rebel world. Yes, there were stormtroopers that came from that planet, but like I said, it was possible that the planet leaders were in cahoots with the rebellion. Yeah, oh my god. And I'm just talking about the story so far. Haven't got to the repetitive gameplay yet. Okay, first off, graphically, the game looks amazing. It truly does. You know, I will give the game that much credit. But this is just talking about the campaign here, not the multiplayer, because I don't have PlayStation Plus, so I can't experience multiplayer. The gameplay is mediocre. The guns have a cooling down system, so majority of the time, the weapons feel the same. Because what you're doing is just firing a bunch of times, and then when the cooldown meter hits, you just press a button and you're good. There's no like kickback or like there's different range for weapons and they fire at different rates, but it doesn't help. It still feels the same. There's no weight to them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Oh, and another problem with the story mode, a good portion of the time you're playing as Star Wars heroes, not the main character. So she doesn't really get development. Most of the time, like I want to say almost half the time you're playing as heroes. It's cool to play as the heroes, but you know, it's not good story sense, I guess. It's and they make you the game didn't finish off the campaign story didn't finish off correctly. It was in DLC. Of course, this DLC I think was a free update. So anyone who had to wait for it didn't have to pay, I believe. I had gotten this game a couple weeks ago, so I paid my $5 for it, and I didn't pay for any DLC. Anything else I should note? Oh yeah, the only part that really feels like Star Wars is when you're in a flight mission. But here's the thing, and I think this is an important point. Everything this game is trying to be and everything it's trying to do has been done better in a lot other Star Wars games. You can get Star Wars games with good story, good good flight mechanics, good shooting, all on Steam, and each one of those games is only about $10. This is why I think the game truly fails. And without really discussing how the multiplayer is, I think that's really all I can say at the moment.
So, I know we weren't able to look at the multiplayer, but I think even without talking about the multiplayer, this game itself, it's just mediocre. It looks like Star Wars, it sounds like Star Wars, but it's not Star Wars. Trust me, folks. This is Nerdy John, signing out. And remember, when you captured an enemy operative, make sure you take every piece of equipment. Next time, I don't know. We'll look at whatever. I'm just done with this. This is Nerdy, signing out.